Hello. Earlier this week at Adepticon, Games Workshop announced the future of the old world, the next armies that are going to be released, and the range of miniatures that are coming for them. We heard about the Beastmen, the Wood Elves, and Grand Cathay. Now, I'm not going to go through every single one of the miniatures, every single one of the reveals. There are plenty of channels that have done that, including a really good video from my friend Stu on the Miniature Realms channel. I am instead going to take a look at the meaning of all of this, what I think this actually means for Warhammer The Old World in the long term, and why I am super optimistic about the future of this game. I will be making individual videos in my Building Warhammer Army series that look at the history of the Beastmen, the history of the Wood Elves, and the history of Cathay in Warhammer Fantasy, that go right the way back to the original editions and draw out all of the references and specific miniatures that have ever been created for those armies and how they have evolved over time. This, again, is not that. This is purely my reaction to this fantastic news and why I am really excited about it. Now, first of all, that Cathayan army that was previewed, I think, is absolutely stunning. So many amazing miniatures, really, really exciting stuff. I have seen folks who have suggested that this amazing new army is going to look really strange when you put it next to old classic miniatures, older armies. I personally disagree. I think that there's so much charm to old world miniatures and miniatures from the early Warhammer editions that they more than hold their own, so I've got no qualms about that at all. This new army, though, full of incredible miniatures. I think the Sentinel is absolutely stunning. I also think that the Sky Lantern, the sort of hot air balloon, is really fantastic. I was chatting with a friend about whether or not we could use one in an Empire army. I think that would make an amazing conversion project for a Cathayan merchant who has found his way to Marienburg and is now selling off his recon capabilities in this amazing hot air balloon to anyone who will pay the coin. So I think that there's the opportunity to see one of these hot air balloons in my Marienburg army at some point, just because it's such an amazing model, basically. But yes, awesome models, an amazing range, an amazing reveal, super, super exciting. What I think this spells for the future of the old world is incredibly positive. The investment that must have gone into creating this Cathayan army is huge. I think the Specialist Design Studio and Games Workshop as a whole will have had to invest a huge amount of development time. We know that there was already loads of design work done in conjunction with Creative Assembly when they were making Total War Warhammer 3 for the actual reveal of Cathay in the digital sphere. So a lot of that work was already taking place, various concepts and unit designs, all that sort of cool stuff. To then sculpt them as miniatures, beautiful miniatures nonetheless, that's a huge amount of work. All of these miniatures are going to be released in plastic. That means that the tooling will have cost a huge amount as well. There is clearly a massive investment from Games Workshop in this Cathayan army, which means there's a huge investment from Games Workshop into the old world as a game system, as a line of products, which I think is just a super positive thing. Essentially, this is Games Workshop saying that they think there is value in the old world. It is not just a cash-in, it's not just nostalgia bait, it's not just going back and releasing old models that they have on the shelves. This is something brand new. We've seen some of that, obviously, with previous armies. We've seen brand new miniatures released for most of the armies that have come out so far. Those miniatures have all been pretty much amazing too. Sure, there is some design differences and the scale and the nature of some of those have changed. Some of them I'm not as big a fan of as others. But that's fine. That's what miniatures are about. Everybody's going to have their favourites. But I think it's great that there is this level of investment going into the game. And it may sound really super clinical and cold to think about this thing in terms of investment, but the very truth of it is that, yes, we may love these games. We may love Warhammer Fantasy as a creative sphere, as a hobby, as a game that we get to play and that we get to enjoy, but it only exists because of a business and because of the nature of business. We saw exactly that with the impacts of falling sales and the changes in sort of business decision making that led to the cancellation of the product line in 2015. The end of Warhammer Fantasy was a business decision, not a creative one. The creative aspects were how to fulfill that business decision. Now, we're seeing the business decisions go in another way, investment and creation and expansion of the game, and how we can create new ranges that get people excited and bring people in to the Warhammer Old World, which I think is awesome. I want this game to be around for ages. I want to be able to play it with my friends. I want to be able to go to the store and marvel at amazing classic fantasy models. So I am all for it. The other amazing aspect and thing that I think is super interesting is that a lot of the initial discussion about Warhammer The Old World was that this is a game set in the Old World continent. There was an initial pitch, and the maps and all that sort of stuff sort of suggested that this was all about the Empire, and it would sort of focus in on that geographical space, the Old World, and you would be sort of seeing how the different armies interacted and entered the area that the Empire controlled, and that would be the focus from a narrative perspective, and would also justify all of the battles and the games that took place. That is largely true. You see a lot of that sort of presented through the narratives that we get in the Arcane Journals and in the actual core books. But also, there's loads of stuff that contradicts that and that goes broader. I mean, even the fact that Tomb Kings were so central to the initial launch, yes, there's some justifications and the sort of everything happening and sort of, how they've become more and more involved. They're going into the Border Princes and that kind of thing. So there are justifications. But I think they've always put truth to the lie that this is about the geographical Old World. I think much more the game is actually about the old version of the world of Warhammer, the world that was. So when we're talking about Warhammer The Old World, we're literally talking about Warhammer the old game, Warhammer the old, version. So by expanding to include Grand Cathay, and yes, we've seen a Cathayan ship on the map, and that's putting it in the Old World. It narratively justifies why Cathayan forces would be in the Old World. But in that Adepticon reveal, they were talking about the nature of the Sentinels, for example, and talked about where they geographically exist in the Cathayan nation, and how you might encounter them, and how they might look differently and behave differently and be constructed of different materials based on where you were encountering them. And I think that just speaks to, and I know this is all marketing talk and stuff like that, but that speaks to actually this game, Warhammer The Old World, is not just geographically contained, it's about the whole world and exploring it and doing lots of cool stuff. Now, of course, you can justify or contradict or do whatever you want with any of that information. Absolutely, Games Workshop could come out tomorrow and say, no, it's set geographically in the Old World, it's called the Old World because it's about that literal location. That's fine if they want to do that, no worries. But I think it kind of speaks to a business kind of thinking or a sort of expansion of the remit to kind of say, well, you know what? Yes, it's ostensibly about that area of land, but really we're getting into different corners. We're going into different places. We're expanding the lore, telling new stories. We already saw that with the only Old World novel that has been published so far. Lords of the Lance by Graham McNeill mostly takes place in Nehekara. It's not based in the Old World at all. And I think hopefully we'll see more novels, and I assume they will explore other parts of the world too. Essentially, what I'm saying is I'm really excited about this idea that the game and its world will expand and continue. There's investment in the future of it from a product perspective, but there's also seemingly investment in the future of it from a sort of broader narrative perspective. We're going to go larger. We're going to explore the world. This opens the door to the Lizardmen and Lustria. It opens the door to the Vampire Coast or Sartosans or whatever you wanted to do for armies that are not based in the geographical location of the Old World. You can just bring them in, because this game is not just about that place. It's about so much more. It's about this entire planet, this entire Warhammer world. So yes, you may think this is some sort of copium. This is some sort of just, I'm super excited about these reveals, so I'm having a flight of fancy. Absolutely, that is the case. Yes, I'm excited about these reveals. I'm excited about the future of Warhammer The Old World. I can't wait to see where it goes next. So, yeah, as a reveal, as a set of reveals and a preview of new releases, I'm really buzzed about it. If I had any criticism, it would just be that we almost breezed past the return of the Beastmen and the return of the Wood Elves, which I think is a little bit of a shame because those are cool armies and there's some amazing miniatures there, and I love to see it. That's exciting to me too. So I want to dwell on that as well. But it's no surprise to me that Grand Cathay has stolen the show because those miniatures are amazing and what they mean for Warhammer The Old World is just massive. It really does say, this game is here to stay. There's a huge future to it. Are we going to get Kislev down the line? Are we going to get other nations that we've never seen before down the line? Potentially. It feels like that sort of stuff is now on the table. And sure, maybe it always was. Now it's confirmed. We've got this brand new army, an army that never existed on the Warhammer tabletop before, has been created whole cloth for this game. I love it. I am so excited about the future. Can't wait to see. We've got an old world role-playing game coming around the corner. What is that going to do for the world? Is that going to expand things in an exciting new way? Is that going to tell new stories? Are there going to be more novels? I really, really hope so, because I think the opportunity is awesome to get back into Warhammer The Old World in a real massive way. Basically, I'm super excited. This set of previews did exactly what it was supposed to for me, which was get me even more excited about the old world than I already am. And I just thought I would share it with you guys. I'm really looking forward to where things go next. It feels like we've got an amazing summer, an amazing 2025 ahead of us. Whatever 2026 will bring, I can only look forward to. But I don't even need to be thinking that far ahead, really, because there's some amazing stuff on the horizon. I can't wait. That's it. That's all I'm here for. Thank you for joining me. I'm Jordan, and this is Jordan Sorcery.